going to do is go ahead on and sew this tube. This is your waistband. So you see where I have these pins and I have the wrong sides facing each other, and so then the right side of the fabric is out, and I have folded it in hot dog, and I'm just gonna go ahead and sew it. I'm gonna do a zigzag stitch, and I'm going to sew it all along this whole line here. Alright, so once we're finished, this whole entire thing is sewn. This is your waistband. We are going to take the opposite ends and we're going to match these up and sew along this line. And what I like to do is I like to match it up at the top of the waistband just to make sure that this is even, because this bottom edge is the raw edge and we can always cut that excess off. But I like the top edge to match it. Okay, so now I have the waistband. The next step is to take the waistband and attach it to our skirt. We have our waistband right here, and we have our skirt that we cut out. Now, this waist is larger. You see this? The waist is larger than the waistband, which is what we want because that helps to give us that kind of, flowy, gathered look. So, because this is stretch, we are able to ease the skirt into the waistband. Skirt is right side out, okay? So this is right side out, the skirt. The waistband, what we are going to do is, you see this seam? This seam right here, we're going to kiss that. We're going to make that go on the back. So this seam right here is going to be our back seam. That's how I like to do it. The skirt is folded in half. So I'm going to designate this right here as the back middle. Like, so if I was to fold it in half, this is exactly the back middle, okay? So I'm going to match this up with this, the right side out. So this seam is going to kiss the back seam, right side out. So right sides kissing each other. And I am going to put a pin in it. And I'm going to stretch this out. I like to divide the waistband into quadrants. So when I mean quadrants, it means 4. So I'm going to pin the back middle. Then I'm going to go ahead on and pin the front middle. And these are like my anchors. And then I'm going to pin the side. See, this is a quadrant. So I've split it in half, and now we're splitting it into 4. This is the right side, and I'm going to pin it exactly in the middle on the right. And then this is the left side. So I'm going to pin it exactly in the middle on this side. And this is just so that your waistband can be balanced. Okay? So now I have my skirt pinned in 4 places. Back, front, side, and side. Now what I'm going to do is stretch it out a little bit. And what I normally do, I stretch it as I sew. But if you are getting familiar with that technique, you're going to need to pin yours again. So pin it here. And the purpose is for you to stretch the waistband out a little bit. So you are going to stretch the waistband out as you sew and also when you pin, because the waistband is going to act like a gathering tool, because the waistband is going to be snug on you. So again, I'm stretching this out a bit between these 2 points, and I'm pinning right here. This will help guide you. So again, stretch it out. I'm going to pin right here. Okay? All right. So I have my waistband completely pinned. We're going to take this to the machine and we're going to sew along this entire, we're going to sew these 2 pieces together along the entire perimeter. And then what we'll be left with is a waistband like that. So starting at the back, I like to always start at the seam. And this is the only seam that we have. So I'm going to start at the back, which is our first anchor point. And I am going to sew. When you're sewing, make sure that you sew above your first stitch line. This is the stitch line for your waistband. When you sew, we want to sew in, like up, because we don't want the old stitch line to show on the opposite side. So really what I'm doing, I'm pulling on this band to fit into the under, which is the skirt portion. This method will only work if you have stretch, because a woven is not going to stretch like this. Okay, so now we are finished with our skirt. So you see how it kind of gathered it naturally? That's because I pulled the waistband as I sewed. So now you have like a gathering action going on with the skirt. Now what we need to do is go through and hem the bottom. And in order to hem, I would switch it to a straight stitch and start at one point. For me, it is way easier to just fold it under as I go. Now, technically, you could leave this a raw edge because it's not going to fray, but it's not professional looking, so I suggest you hem the bottom. And just, if you're a beginner, hold a steady hand with this. If you need pins, then pin along, but it's kind of difficult to pin in a curve, which is what this is, a circle skirt. The hem is a curve. So I suggest you just really take your time and practice this part, because that's the only thing that's going to help you improve is practice. I've been doing this so long. What I just do is I sew a few inches and then I'll fold down. I sew a few inches, then I fold down. That's how I do it, because I like a narrow hem on circle skirts. I find that it's easier this way for me. All of those pins are just extra work and extra time. So I just suggest, as a beginner, take your time with the hemming part. And this is what the underside of my hem looks like. And what you would do at the end is just cut off this excess under the hem. See how nice this hem is? So it's very even all the way around, and on the inside is like this. So if you wanted to, you can just go through with your scissors very carefully and cut off the excess.